Raina Matthews had always dreamed of a quiet life after the military. After serving 2 tours overseas and being honorably discharged due to injuries, she longed for peace, safety, and normalcy. When she finally found the little brick house on Sycamore Lane tucked inside the pristine, tree-lined subdivision of Maple Ridge, she thought she had found exactly that. The lawns were manicured, the mailboxes all matched, and the streets were safe enough for kids to play basketball in the evenings. It was perfect, or so she thought. Moving in wasn't easy. Raina, still adjusting to civilian life, had her good days and bad. What helped her navigate both was Atlas, her service dog. A broad-shouldered, intelligent German shepherd with soft eyes and a steady demeanor. Atlas was more than a companion. He was trained to detect anxiety spikes, guide her during dizzy spells, and wake her from night terrors. He wore a red service dog vest wherever they went, marked clearly with "Do Not Pet" and "Medical Service Animal." The first few days were uneventful. Raina unpacked her things, took Atlas 4 walks around the neighborhood, and tried to introduce herself to a few neighbors. Most were friendly, giving her polite hellos or warm smiles. But one woman stood out, Karen Dillard, the HOA president. She didn't smile, she stared, from her porch, from her car. Even during Atlas's bathroom walks, Karen would appear as if she were watching for a rule to be broken. On the 4th morning, Raina found a letter taped to her front door. It was a formal notice from the HOA, warning her of a pet violation for allowing an animal to urinate on community grass. Confused and slightly amused, Raina walked to the community board and snapped a picture of the posted bylaws. Pets were allowed leashed and cleaned up after. Atlas always wore a leash, and Raina carried bags every time. She decided to respond politely. Atlas. She wrote a note back to Karen, explaining that Atlas wasn't a pet, but a registered service dog, protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act. She included copies of his certification and medical recommendation. She thought that would clear everything up, but she was wrong. Karen wasn't just any neighbor. She was the type who didn't like being told she was wrong, especially by someone new. Different and protected by laws she didn't understand or respect. A few days after Raina submitted the paperwork confirming Atlas's service dog status, she noticed a shift in the atmosphere around her. What had once been polite smiles from passing neighbors were now hesitant nods or quiet avoidance. Children who had eagerly asked to pet Atlas during their walks were suddenly ushered away by their parents. Raina couldn't be sure, but it felt like something was being said behind closed doors. Her suspicion was confirmed when she attended her first HOA meeting at the community center. She wanted to integrate, maybe even offer help with neighborhood events. But the moment she walked in with Atlas at her side, every head in the room turned. Karen sat at the front, flanked by 2 board members. Her lips pursed the moment she saw Atlas. "We'll need the animal to wait outside," Karen said coolly. "He's a federally protected service dog," Raina replied, keeping her voice calm. "He's allowed to accompany me anywhere by law." Expression didn't change. "We have residents with allergies. Out of courtesy, he should wait in the hallway." Raina stood her ground, and after a tense silence, the meeting proceeded with Atlas curled quietly at her feet, not making a sound. But from that point on, it was clear she had crossed an invisible line. Over the next week, violation notices began to appear almost daily. One cited excessive dog walking, another complained about leaving animal waste. Even though Raina always cleaned up after Atlas, a third accused her of violating lawn care codes because Atlas had supposedly trampled grass along the walkway. She went door to door to speak with a few neighbors, hoping for understanding. Some were sympathetic but hesitant to get involved. Others were blunt. Kieran had told them Raina was bringing dangerous animals into a family community and was abusing the disability law loophole. Raina was stunned. She'd expected misunderstanding, maybe even ignorance. This was something different. It was targeted, coordinated, malicious. One afternoon, she returned from the park with Atlas. She found a sign staked in her front lawn. "Control your animal or move." Atlas growled lowly. Raina stared at the sign, her chest tight with anxiety and anger. She had fought wars overseas for freedom, for rights, for dignity. And now, back home, in a peaceful little suburb, she was being treated like a threat. Because of the very dog that had helped her survive, the neighborhood barbecue was supposed to be a chance for healing. The HOA held it annually, and despite everything, Raina decided to attend. She needed to show strength not just for herself, but for Atlas. She dressed casually, brought a small dish of cornbread, and clipped Atlas's vest securely around his torso. He walked calmly beside her, ignoring the murmurs that followed them as they entered the park pavilion. A few friendly neighbors nodded. Some whispered and turned away. Karen stood near the buffet table in a pastel blouse and oversized sunglasses, clipboard in hand, flanked by 2 HOA board members like personal guards. Her eyes narrowed the second she spotted Raina and Atlas. "Animals aren't permitted at community food events," Karen snapped, loud enough for everyone to hear. "He's not an animal. He's a service dog." "And this isn't a restaurant," Raina replied, keeping her voice firm but even. "He's federally protected." Karen stepped forward, ignoring the guests who had begun to pause their conversations. "This is a family environment. That beast is aggressive. He frightens children." Atlas, sitting at Raina's heel, didn't move. His ears perked, but his body remained relaxed, calm, obedient. Raina could feel her heart beginning to race, but she steadied her breathing. "He's trained for combat zones and trauma response. He's safer than most of the people here." Karen's face flushed. "You think you can just bring a weapon into my community and call it therapy?" Before Raina could respond, Karen pulled a small canister from her handbag, bright pink, with a plastic safety latch. Raina's eyes widened. "Don't you?" But Karen had already raised it. With a sharp hiss, a blast of pepper spray hit Atlas directly in the face.
Ouch.
Staggering backward, pawing at his muzzle in agony, screams erupted. A child dropped his plate of food. Raina rushed to Atlas, cradling his head, trying to wipe his eyes with the edge of her shirt as panic clawed at her chest. "What did you do?" she gasped. "He was aggressive," Karen shouted, backing away. "I was protecting people." "Just assaulted a service animal," a man yelled from the crowd. Someone else screamed, "I got it on my phone." And then another voice. "My ring cam caught everything." Raina could barely hear them. All she saw was Atlas in pain, and all she felt was rage boiling beneath her ribs. But more than anything, she knew this had just crossed a line no apology could fix. The ambulance arrived within minutes, but to Raina, it felt like hours. Atlas was loaded into the emergency vet unit as paramedics tried to calm her down. Her hands were shaking, her chest tight. Her mind was spiraling between panic and fury. The police showed up next, taking statements from witnesses while Karen stood off to the side, arms crossed, playing the victim. "I was defending myself," she repeated loudly. "That dog is dangerous. He lunged at me." "He never moved," said a neighbor flatly, holding up his phone. "I've got the whole thing recorded. You just walked up and sprayed him." Raina provided her documentation: service dog certification, medical letters, Atlas's ADA registration chip. One officer took a photo of her documents while another quietly spoke into a shoulder radio. When he returned, his expression had changed. Serious, alert. "Ma'am," he said to Karen, "you're being placed under arrest for violating federal law, specifically Title 18 U.S. Code Section 1368 for harming a service animal." Face twisted. "Excuse me? I was trying to protect people." "That dog is a legally recognized medical service animal. What you did qualifies as a federal offense. You could face up to 10 years in prison." Karen was speechless as the officer read her Miranda rights. The crowd that once murmured behind closed doors now stood in stunned silence, watching as their HOA president was cuffed and led to a patrol car. In the following days, media caught wind of the incident. Footage from the neighborhood BBQ cell, phone videos, doorbell cameras, even drone shots went viral online. Headlines exploded: veteran service dog attacked by HOA president, disability rights advocates, veteran groups, and civil liberties organizations rallied behind Raina, A pro bono attorney contacted her the next morning, offering full legal support. The trial came quickly. Karen pleaded not guilty, insisting she had been set up and targeted. But the evidence was clear, overwhelming, and damning. Video recordings, eyewitness testimony, medical reports from the emergency vessel laid bare her intent and aggression. In court, Raina testified with quiet strength. She told him about Atlas, how he had saved her life more than once, how he helped her stay grounded in the face of trauma. When the jury returned, the verdict was unanimous: guilty on all counts. Karen's sentence was 6 years in federal prison, with mandatory ADA sensitivity training and a permanent ban from any leadership in housing associations. Justice, at last, had spoken. Weeks after the trial, the neighborhood of Maple Ridge felt like a different place. The tension that once clung to the air like fog had lifted. Karen Dillard was gone serving her.